my position.
We'll see what happens. We don't, we
Yeah,
pounded the pavement in DC and
yeah.
not a lot we can do.
Was it well received? Oh, wow.
Morning.
Wow.
Good morning,
I
Scott.
know, that's true. When
Yeah,
you
yeah.
see it, it's like, my feet were.
Oh, yeah. Good morning, Kurt.
I was wearing.
Mr. Chairman, it is 10 a.m. and we have a quorum.
Okay, well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Mountain Lion Board Meeting, February 21st, 2024. My name is Jeronimo Vasquez, I'm Supervisor for District 2, Coconino County. But today I'll be chairing the meeting with our current Vice Chair as well. So with that, let's go ahead and get started with roll call, or call to order. Excuse me. I guess that is a call to order, roll call. Yeah, okay.
We had a long evening, so.
Yeah, I think it's until 9:30 last time.
Thank you. Well, welcome to my world.
Right.
I always, sorry, anyway. Thank you, Chairman and members of the board. City of Flagstaff, Lori Matthews. Here. Thank you. Coconino County, Geronimo Vasquez.
Here.
Thank you. Also from Coconino County, we have Judy Begay. Here. Thank you. City of Flagstaff, Miranda Sweet. Here. NAU, Josh Mayer. Oh, he's trying to come in right now. We'll give him a second. CCC, Kurt Stoll.
Good morning, President.
Good morning, thank you. And Josh, are you with us? NAU Josh Mayer?
Present.
Great, thank you. And we have members of staff here in the Vera room and on Zoom. We also have our attorney Scott Holcomb with us.
Good morning.
Morning, and I will turn it back to you, Chair Vasquez.
Okay, thank you. All right, next up, Safety Minute with Sam Short.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Today's safety minute is on automatic external defibrillators, or AED. So as we learned earlier in the month, February is American Heart Month, and a common medical emergency that takes the lives of many people are emergencies involving the heart. One safety tool no workplace can be without is an automated external defibrillator, or AED. An AED works by using a built-in computer that checks a victim's rhythm through their heart through an adhesive electrode. The computer calculates whether defibrillation is needed. If it is, a recorded voice prompts the rescuer to press the shock button on the AED. This shock momentarily stuns the heart and stops all activity. It gives the heart the chance to resume beating effectively. Audible prompts guide the user through the process. AEDs advise a shock only for ventricular fibrillation or another life-threatening condition called pulseless ventricular tachycardia. Here are some important points for AED use. Do not wait to get the victim medical attention. Studies have shown that if defibrillated within the first minute of collapse, the victim's chance for survival are close to 90%. For every minute that defibrillation is delayed, survival decreases by 7 to 10%. If it is delayed by more than 10 minutes, the chance of survival in adults is less than 5%. Because of their ease of use, anybody can use an AED. That being said, someone with training should be the one to use the AED on a victim if they are present. Regular inspections of AEDs are critical. AEDs have indicator lights that either show green or red. A red light or flashing red light indicates some problem with the AED. Dead batteries are also another common problem with AEDs. Check the manufacturer's literature, excuse me, to how often the batteries need to be replaced. Batteries in AEDs commonly need to be replaced between every 2 and 4 years. Most people are familiar with what an AED is and probably have them in their workplace, but may not understand how they function. It is critical that everyone is at least familiar with how they work and in what situations they should be used. Also, where those AEDs are located. AEDs are often the only chance that a victim of a sudden cardiac arrest will survive. Thank you and welcome to the February Mountain Line Board.
Thank you. All right, next step, number 4, milestone anniversaries. Mr. Dunn.
Good morning, members of the board. Thank you all for being here. I want to start us off by sharing a couple of milestone anniversaries. This month we have 2 milestone anniversaries. On the left-hand side is Lisa Connor. Lisa has reached her 5-year anniversary with Mountain Line. Lisa has spent her entire career at Mountain Line as our eligibility specialist, coordinating certification of eligibility for use of Mountain Line's paratransit service by individuals with mobility difficulties. In the case of our taxi program, Lisa is extremely dedicated to ensuring riders' taxi funds are available to help maintain their independence in their travels, sometimes requiring work outside of usual business hours. Lisa regularly receives commendations from both our clients and their families and caregivers for her helpful and caring approach to both their mobility concerns and their personal well-being. Thank you, Lisa, for your valuable contribution to our team and operations. Second milestone that we're celebrating is Andrew Evick. He is on the right-hand side of the screen. Andrew has reached 15 years with Mountain Line, and he currently serves as our lead mechanic. Andrew has played a pivotal role in numerous successful projects, showcasing not only his mechanical expertise, but also his leadership qualities that serve as an inspiration to the entire team at Mountain Line. His approach to challenges with a positive attitude, coupled with his willingness to share knowledge and provide assistance, has earned him admiration within the organization and outside the organization. Andrew was a significant part of creating our maintenance program and was key to bringing our fleet maintenance fully in-house. Andrew has earned tremendous respect amongst our team and throughout our industry, regularly being called on for advice and problem solving by our peers and our vendors. Andrew, we are grateful for your invaluable contributions to our success, and congratulations. So those are our 2 milestone anniversaries to share this month. And then I have a retirement announcement. Jim Wagner, who did come and join us today, is retiring.
You should look sadder.
So I'll just read a brief statement that was shared with staff. Jim Wagner, Operations Director, is retiring after a total of 18 years of service to Mountain Line. He actually has had 2 careers here at Mountain Line. Jim has been an important part of many things. He helped launch Mountain Line in 2001. He launched Sonoma Runner in 2006. He introduced Birdie Links in 2009, the onboarding of Cottonwood Area Transit in 2011, the launch of Route 10 in 2011, and the revamp of Cottonwood's programs in 2012. And many other key and critical moments. He was part of the team that hired me in 2002 and really has participated in hiring the majority of our team. We will miss Jim's quick wit, unabashed laughter, his sincere care for work and team members, his stealth theft of French fries. That was mine. I'm selfishly sad to report Jim's decision to leave, but it has been my honor to work with Jim, to learn from Jim, to call him friend, and to plan his retirement celebration. I am working with Jim to determine when he will be available to join us for cake and a lot of laughter to celebrate his career and the accomplishment of retirement. So congratulations to you.
A couple things though. If you ever see you're doing this, that means speed it up. Zip zip is something that will stay forever in my memory. That's when I talk too much. And a few other things I can't talk about right.
Well, we appreciate that you're here and sincerely appreciate everything you've done that has helped build who we are today. We wouldn't be us without you, and you are dearly missed.
I appreciate that very much, and thank you for not pointing out the fact that when I cannot stop laughing, they stop meetings and wait for them to finish. It could be 5 minutes. And then you did 80 minutes.
And we will be having retirement celebrations for Jim, both in-house for our team members, as well as an event where we'll invite the community and some of our vendors, and you will all get some save the date information for that. And with that, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you for your service and congratulations to those folks with the milestones. That's really exciting. All three milestones are exciting. So, appreciate the public service. Next up, call to the public. The public is invited to speak on any item or any area of concern that is the jurisdiction of the Mountain Line Board. Comments relating to items on the agenda may be taken at the time the item is discussed. The board is prohibited by the open meeting law from discussing, considering, or acting on items raised during the call to the public, but may direct the staff to place an item on a further agenda. Individuals are limited to a 3-minute presentation. A spokesperson for 10 or more people present at today's meeting may be given up to 6 minutes to speak. The board will not recognize anonymous comments. So do we have a call to the public?
We have no members of the public here to speak, so
And nothing in the virtual world?
no, don't receive anything in the email.
Okay, well. Thank you. Then in that case, we'll move on. And next up, number 6, approval of the minutes, 1/17/2024. So do we have a motion to approve the minutes, or is there some discussion about the minutes?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Ms. Matthews and a second by Ms. Sweet. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Next up is the consent agenda. Oh, wait, no, sorry. City of Flagstaff Regional Plan 2045 update presentation. Sarah Dector. City of Flagstaff.
Hi, I'm online. How's everyone doing today?
Thank you.
Thanks for having me as part of this conversation. I don't know who's running the slides. Would it be easier for me to share and show the slides and advance them, or just is there someone in the room who's doing that?
This is Rhonda and I'll be advancing them for you.
Okay, great.
Just want the next slide. Thanks.
All right, I will. Thank you. Well, I know it says City of Flagstaff Regional Plan 2045 on the screen, but it's actually the Flagstaff Regional Plan because it's both a city and a county document that we're working on, both the general plan for the city and an area plan for Coconino County when we talk about the regional plan. So we've been working for almost 2 years on gathering a whole lot of public engagement on a number of different topics. And the most recent public engagement we had was the process we called scenario choosing and setting priorities, which is a really critical part of understanding our community's desires when it comes to future growth and how we can build a future in 2045 that the community is proud of. So the staff at Mountain Line asked me to do a brief presentation for the board and for the technical advisory group. So I'm going to try and cover 2 months of conversation with over 500 people in the community in about 15 minutes. In the interest of letting you have time as a board to move on to the rest of your important agenda. So next slide, Rhonda. So scenario choosing is a process where we have been working with the public to build different ways the community and the region could look and be built in the next 20 years. We provided both an online and in-person way for people to reflect on what we had gathered so far. And there was kind of a 2-step process that created some internal feedback for the participant. It's important to understand this as I show you the results so you can kind of see how what people learned in this process might influence how decision makers want to look at the material that we're going to move forward with as we are writing the plan with our committee. So the first thing that people did was they watched some videos that gave them some background. We realize even though we've already been working on this for 2 years, new people show up at every round of engagement. And that's really been shown by our participation numbers. We've been adding 100 to 200 new participants with each round of public participation on the regional plan, which is great. It's kind of a really wonky process and people sometimes have a hard time getting their heads around it. So we're continually trying to make it more and more accessible. So to do that, after the open house, we gave everyone the opportunity to take what we called a priorities quiz. And really this was built like a personality quiz. It let you put in your values and the things you think are important. And then it reflected back to you in the feedback phase. Based on what you've told us, we think this is the scenario that best matches your opinions about the community. Then people got to look at a report card and we said, when we ran those scenarios through our modeling, here's what it tells us about the future. And then people got to give kind of a final answer, or we called that the scenario choosing step, where they got to, rank vote 1 through 4 for the scenarios A, B, C, and D. And it was really interesting what we've learned through this process. So I want to show you some of the results. Next slide. So first, our participants were about 80 to 75% city residents. It was a little less taken in terms of participation out in the county, but that could have been because the county is simultaneously running focus groups for the comprehensive plan all over Coconino County. So we're taking some of what Melissa Shaw is learning through the focus groups and looking at it as qualitative data to inform this process as well. In addition to that, the respondents that took the priorities quiz did not always also take the choosing quiz. So there's kind of a drop off in response rates of people who actually read through everything. And I think that was something we expected as we looked through this. So next slide. And I will say we're going to dig through those geographic information. We actually asked people, what neighborhood do you live in? But because we had just created this slideshow about a week after the survey closed, we did not have time to dig all the way down. I expect to have a full report on that data in a few weeks. So from what we had in the priorities quiz, people's top priorities were housing affordability, walking and biking, and growth that reduces our impacts on climate change. That is what we have been hearing in the policy conversations the City Council and the Board of Supervisors has been having for the last few years as well. So that resonates really strongly here. Public transit did come in kind of a strong 5th in this, is pretty close to expanding access to parks and trails. So I think the fact that it didn't show up in the top 3 doesn't mean it isn't a priority. I think it is related, especially to walking and biking and reducing impacts on climate change in people's minds based on the qualitative comments that we're still analyzing. Next slide. So within that concept of climate goals, we did ask people, what are your top climate goals? And really conservation still came out at the top, which is a challenge because we know that the plan does influence conservation, but it really can influence how our built environment is changing. And so the fact that those built environment climate strategies didn't have as much support or didn't get prioritized as often by participants is a good finding to walk away with as we try and shape the regional plan and what it can do. Next slide. We also asked people what kind of housing types they thought the community needed, and middle housing such as townhomes and duplexes, and compact single family housing, compact meaning smaller lots and tighter configurations, came out as the top priorities from participants. Next slide. The transportation options, the strongest responses came in for walking and biking, but public transit was second when we looked at transportation only over even investments in more roads, bridges, and highways. Though we know all these transportation modes go hand in hand, this is kind of where we started seeing people break out a little more, and specifically walking and biking in Central and East Flagstaff were the highest priorities. Next slide. So we then asked some folks we asked a little bit about trade-offs, and I'm going to go through these a little faster. They were, this or this, this or this, kind of, you think of it like an eye test, right? Which helps us rank people's other answers and how that gets scored. People supported housing and jobs that should be added with new infrastructure over not taking on much growth, but not by a huge margin. Next slide. I'm going to go through these a little bit faster. There was not a ton of support, though some, for adding new building heights or increasing building heights to get more density in the city, though maybe there's some limited areas that might be appropriate for it. It didn't get the stronger support of these two items. Next slide. This is one of the strongest responses is more affordable housing options being created and adding more compact housing to existing neighborhoods was very strongly supported. Next slide. People were pretty split on whether we should be investing in high quality in our existing parks or expanding our level of service in new parks, which is something we've shared with our parks, open space and recreation staffs at the city and county. Next slide. And then investing in affordable housing as a major workforce and economic development strategy was highly ranked above trying to attract new and larger employers. And this doesn't mean that either of these were exclusives. This is just of the 557 people who applied, this is how they leaned on these issues. Next slide. So when we just look at people's score, their ending score, what was their closest matching priority? Business as usual was the one that was the strongest preference. And that's really interesting. So business as usual was a scenario we built with a couple rules. One was that we don't change any zoning. We just leave the zoning the way it is and we let the market play out in the community from now till 2045. And then the second thing was that we definitely looked at continuing the pattern of development we've seen. So some big infill projects and more low density suburbs is sort of what business as usual provides in terms of what it means as a scenario. And then the other three, we can see there's kind of a distribution. If you go to the next slide, it shows a slightly different result, however. So when we looked at match strength, so how strongly people correlated, so like if you answered everything and all your scores added into the D column, you got a stronger match strength than if they all added up, than if you kind of had sprinkled your answers among these many different scenarios. So you can see that C and D start to pop out to the top when we look at match strength. So people who are thinking about neighborhood infill and thinking about urban centers and corridors, they have stronger preferences for those than the people who kind of scored out as scenario A at the end. So next slide. The other interesting thing to look at match strength is not just how individual people scored, but when we look at all the scores aggregated, scenario D of neighborhood infill actually came out as a very strong lead on this one. So you can see if we looked at all the participants and all their scores, you get kind of a different answer from this kind of a survey result. So next slide. So then people got to look at all our report cards, is what we call them, which were outputs from the scenario planning model of which scenarios had the biggest impact on affordability or hazard mitigation or people's ability to walk and bike and use transit. And people got to look at all of this material. Next slide. When they took the scenario choosing survey, which they did after this feedback step for the most part, their answers changed. Neighborhood infill became the first choice based on its outputs and outcomes. Which is a change. It would mean changing zoning in existing neighborhoods to allow it to be easier to develop new units. That's really the important part of scenario D. And then scenario C of building up and building in our urban corridors and centers became the second choice. And you can see third choice was complete communities, which was focused on greenfield development. And the fourth choice then became scenario A, which is a flip from what we saw when we just asked people to tell us their priorities and values. So I think this is really revealing on what the challenges we have in terms of creating policies that draw the future we want, but also reflect the values we have as a community. So this process in that way has been very interesting. So next slide. Within the city, an important difference to state is we did have lower responses in the county, but we still had almost 100 of them. But within the city, these preferences were much stronger. In the county, the curve of responses looks a little more like the priority survey. So just a good thing to recognize. Next slide. And so our walkaways from this is there's strong support for housing affordability, climate change impacts and addressing them, preserving our high value natural resource areas, using water and energy efficiently, having more missing middle housing and compact single family housing, and focusing on walking and biking as we move forward with the regional plan. This is a pretty consistent list with what we actually heard in June when we did an earlier survey where we just showed people 25 priorities and we asked them to rank them. So this is now the answer we have heard twice of what we should be prioritizing in the regional plan as we move forward. And we've shared this with the regional plan committee and all of you. And the regional plan committee is actually meeting tonight at 6 p.m. You can attend virtually or in person, and we're going over our first chapter draft for resource stewardship and resilience, which covers natural resources and cultural resources in the Flagstaff region. And so we're taking all these responses and we'll take a more in-depth look at them in March, and considering that as we work to draft policies and materials, with the hope of having a draft regional plan available for the public late this summer. Any questions?
So I guess I do have a question. So when looking at scenario A as the priorities, business as usual, but then everything else leans towards scenario D. How are you as or this group gonna reconcile that? Because it seems like on one front, it sounds like the priority is just keep things the way they are, but on the other side, it seems like it's leaning towards scenario D. And so how are you gonna walk that minefield?
Well, on the qualitative side, what we heard about scenario D was the biggest concern about it was displacement. So making sure that residents, it's not that whatever we create for land use policies in scenario D would not be such that you have to scrape your property and displace people in order to build something that's adding units to the community. And that is very challenging in this market. There's a whole set of builders and developers who've been trying to figure out how that incremental building approach can be effective in the market. And of course, there's a lot of challenges for that as well. So I think we're going to look very hard at that part of it and not just write policies that kind of say we're going to sweep through our existing neighborhoods and they're going to transform in the next 20 years, but take a really careful look at that in particular. But it is a dichotomy, right? I think what I understood from the conversations I had with people at the open houses and the qualitative comments that we're still working through, that just takes more time, is that people like the way things are. They don't like that if we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to end up with a different future. And I think that is the part that when folks are maybe standing up and talking for 3 minutes in public comment, that they have a really hard time articulating, right? And that'll be a challenge for all of us as we kind of work through the material.
Okay, thank you. I guess my other question would be, is this information available yet? Or is this, we gotta wait until it comes out publicly?
The presentation is, I don't know if I've posted the slides, but I recorded the first time I did the presentation for the regional plan committee online. I'm happy to send that link to the video. And yeah, I could add these slides to the website. The more complete version of this, of digging into this data, I probably will have in about 2 weeks. And I will post it to the website when it's ready.
Great, thank you. We have a question, Josh Schmier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Sarah, for being here. I was just wondering if you could speak to the degree to which, like this survey, will ultimately influence the outcome of the regional plan. Just understanding that, there's sometimes where there's certain groups that might be disproportionately motivated to influence the outcome in a way that doesn't necessarily reflect broader community values.
Yeah, this is one of many, many different public participation-based inputs into the process. Right now, the way the writing process is going to go is that the staff is preparing draft chapters. Those are going to go to the committee, 1 or 2 a month until July, for a review, and that review is happening in a public setting. And I think the people who are most motivated to be part of the process will probably, I think they're going to kind of show up in that process there. But we also have these broader reports, including the strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats assessment. We have the scenario planning efforts. We have a visioning workshops that we did last year. And the committee has all gotten familiar with that full range of feedback. And that was part of their homework in the first couple of months, is to really look back over all of those things. So even though maybe there's only a few people in the room, they've had the chance to read almost 1,000 different people's input into the process so far. And so they are being asked to like not only look at what staff's recommending, because we've also been reviewing that material, but to then reflect on those past inputs as well. And so I think that's the piece we're pulling together right now. When we have a draft plan, there's still another 60-day review. And I actually expect that's when we'll hear from a lot of people who didn't quite know how to plug into this part of the process, because it's always easier to have something and to be able to say, well, I don't like that, than it is to try and be putting your head in a futuristic thinking mindset and thinking ahead 20 years and how the community might be different. So I think there's a lot of value in the people who have kind of engaged in that future thinking exercises with us. And there'll still be a lot of feedback from people who maybe didn't show up to any of these previous steps. And when they hear what's in the draft plan, they will still have a chance to give feedback and help us adjust it.
Thanks, Sarah.
Are there any other questions or comments at this time?
Thank you for the opportunity to share today. I hope you all have a good meeting.
And look
Thanks,
forward to
Sarah.
seeing the data in 2 weeks when it's fully complete.
Thanks.
Chair, if I may, this is Scott Holcomb, just real quick. So if I may, Sarah, in my other representation, I'm the town attorney for Queen Creek. There have been a lot of, as a growing community, they've had a lot of very good, what I've seen, smaller single family housing and some unique projects to get more density in a quality way. If you'd like, can I reach out to you, maybe give you some contacts? I think that coordination could be very useful.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll put my email in the chat.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other questions or comments before we move on? All right, in that case, thank you very much for the presentation. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next, we're up at the consent agenda. All matters under consent agenda are considered by the board of directors to be routine and will be enacted by a single motion approving the consent agenda. If discussion is desired on any particular consent item, that item may be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. All items on consent agenda with financial impact have been budgeted. Number 8, amendment to the rules of procedure, code of conduct, and conflict of interest statements for the transitory advisory, TAC, and the board of directors, the BOD. And I'll hand it over to Rhonda Cash.
Actually, it's an instant item.
Oh, so I don't have to?
It's not
Ah, okay.
discussion unless you have a question.
I guess staff recommends the board approve the amendment to the rules of procedure related to the code of conduct and conflict of interest statements. So do we have any discussion from board members? In that case, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion by Ms. Matthews. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Ms. Judy Begill.
Excuse me, I don't know that.
Voting.
That.
Did you can't see the second?
Yeah, I can't,
Oh, okay.
because you're.
Oh, okay, okay. No,
Sorry.
Okay, so Miranda, we have a second by Ms. Sweet. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Number 9, discussion items, FY 2025 budget message, Ms. Heather Feldman.
Chair, this is Scott Holcomb. Just because you're taking, since you're taking voice votes, that you should always ask at the end, are there any opposed, just to make it clear, because we need a record of everyone's vote.
In that case, is there anybody opposed to this motion? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Number
All
9.
Well, hopefully the next couple of agenda items are a little more simple. They're all discussion. So we really want your feedback and input on the discussion items. Most of them will have action later. So it's really important that we're taking your feedback and incorporating that into future items. The first item we're going to start with is the fiscal year 2025 budget message. So this is per the staff report in your packets. This is my effort to provide you with information about how we approached budget 2025 and what we have focused on in setting that budget. So per the staff report, there were 3 key areas to setting the fiscal year 3 key points to setting the fiscal year 2025 budget. And you're going to hear the breakdown of those budget items later today and over the next several meetings. But again, this is just high level, how did we approach it? So first, when we approach budget, we look at fiscal capacity, and that includes 3 major factors: our transit fund balance, which is really the city of Flagstaff's transit fund balance; projected revenues from the city of Flagstaff. So city of Flagstaff is the fiduciary for those funds, the transit tax funds. So we do rely on their projections and estimations. And then status of federal funding, which is of course us working with FTA to understand what bills have been approved, what bills might not be approved, and come up with a reasonable expectation. Most of the time our projections on all these revenues are fairly conservative compared to the outcomes. We feel like that's a good practice for us because we are dependent upon those revenues. One thing I didn't include in the staff report that I've added here on the slide is that really determining our financial capacity for future budgets and or the impacts of those future budgets is making sure that we meet our current commitments for operations and capital projects. The second part of setting our budget is really looking at inflationary impacts. So right now we are looking at a CPI of about 3.5%, and that's as of December. So that's the change from December 22 to December 2023. Significant changes that we know we have to accommodate in our budget. Liability insurance is projecting to go up another 25%, and we're going to talk a little bit about strategies in the next slide. We have the minimum wage change, which you all approved as a wage change for our staff. Fuel, the average price per gallon is about a 12% increase per gallon, which adds up. Water and electricity rate changes, contract increases. We're starting to see increases for shipping, inflation of the actual cost of the widget or the good, and then wage increases. So we do have contractors that provide staffing to us, and so we're seeing those contracts increase as a result of wage changes. Parts and supplies just continue to climb. It's a supply and demand issue. There's less supply, there's more demand, and our cost goes up. And the last is our health insurance increase. We do participate in NAPAP, and that's going to be in the next presentation. So the goals of our budget as we looked at fiscal year 2025 is one, we asked staff to be fiscally constrained, flat budget, if you will. There are some things that we can't control that have to be increased, but no new service is being proposed in the next budget cycle. We want to focus on improving our ability to attract and retain staff so that we can go back to full service. Looking at new rider tools, we are evaluating when do we contract out of house, when do we bring services in-house, making sure that we find the right balance in both productivity, efficiency, quality, and cost. We continue to look at the battery electric buses. That evaluation and decision-making will be a priority in the next cycle. Extend and expand the transit tax funding, open the DCC, and then again, not in the staff report, but added here is we've already started conversations around insurance strategies. It's happening at every association meeting that I go to where transit associations are saying we're drowning. And there's no providers in the market. That's the problem. Mm-hmm. So that is the basis of how we started our budget process. I'd be happy to pause and answer any questions you have based on the staff report.
Are there any questions? Looks like there might be something in the chat, but
John will check it. I think it was Sarah's email for Scott. Yeah.
Okay, in that case.
I just have a question on the insurance,
Yeah.
because I know, I can't even imagine they increased the dollar amount, because I know with my little nonprofit, my liability insurance last year went up several $1,000s. I can't imagine the magnitude, so, can you just point a little bit more on the strategy of?
So- Josh, who's not here today, unfortunately, he'll be presenting the maintenance and operating budget next month, and that will include the hard and fast dollar figures. So if we're calling off top of mind, I want to say the insurance increase is somewhere in the $100,000 change. But what we've seen is about a 468% increase in insurance since 2018. So it's done nothing but escalate, and a big change for us as a public entity in the transit sector is one of the major carriers closed their doors. And so the whole transit industry has a very limited pool of people. And as you can imagine, transit's a big exposure point. So we work really hard on what do we do in our vehicles? So camera systems help drive down our insurance premiums. And I would tell you that in 20 years, I'll just round to 20 years, we've had 2 significant claims. We've only ever had 2 claims that our insurance paid out. Every other claim has been under our deductible. So our insurance increases are not a factor of what we do from a safety aspect. It is strictly being driven by the market. When we talk about strategies, some things that we have talked about is self-insured. We've had that conversation in the past. And now I'm gonna get a little bit outside of my comfort zone, and Sam's not in the room, but there is a middle ground where you self-insure for a higher deductible. So you retain for $100,000 per incident deductible instead of, I think right now we have 25 or 50,000. How does that change our premium? So we're absorbing $100,000, which is 99.9% of claims. Can that drive that down? And if we're never seeing that high of a claim, technically that's pocket savings for us, right? So those are some of the ideas that we're working on. Things like going electric, that's costing us insurance, right? So those electric vehicles being stored inside the building, especially when there have been several reported building fires as a result of electric buses, the vehicles themselves weigh more, cost more, insurance is higher for those things. So, but city, we have a broker that we work with that does all the market of our programs, and we'll be meeting with them to talk about what are all the strategies that we could deploy to really bring our insurance, if nothing else, maintained, so that we don't keep seeing these types of increases. In 2018, we joined a pool. There's not very many transit pools that we have found as an industry, and it's because our demographics. Arizona liability rules are different than New Mexico liability rules. So that impacts how you can pool, but we did join a pool for the upper tiers. So not our primary coverage, but for all the excess coverage. Just as a reminder, Mountain Line does contract for $21 million in insurance, and that's in our IGA. It was $30 million pre-2018. So we brought it down as one step. And those pools for the excess layers, I think, are where we need to try harder, strive for more.
And then lastly, I know, we've had a discussion at the city level on flood insurance impacts and lobbying at the state and federal level. So is that part of the strategy to maybe lobby state and federal for insurance?
So
structure, caps, or?
We have not engaged in that. What we have done is work with our associations trying to create insurance pools. So the Community Transportation Association of America has kicked off conversations. The Southwest Transit Association has kicked off conversations. I've asked the Arizona Transit Association to do it because we're all in Arizona. So maybe there's a way for even transit in Arizona to pool. A lot of it has to do even just in Arizona with different structures. Like I'm an independent authority, City of Cottonwood sits inside of City of Cottonwood. So just all those things, but we're trying. We have not gone to regulatory yet.
Just curious.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation. It's a huge exposure point.
All right, are there any other questions? I do have a quick question. I was curious, you said the independent transit versus house through a municipality. How rare or how common is that? And would it be possible to pool among those rather than with municipalities?
Potentially. So I'll try and give you a breakdown high level. So you have the City of Tucson and you have For simplistic reasons, City of Phoenix. It is not just City of Phoenix, but City of Phoenix. You have Valley Metro and you have SunTran. Those are both transit authorities, but they operate in populations over 200,000. So the rules about how they operate is completely different. The relationships with communities are completely different. We are an IPTA, Intergovernmental Public Transportation Authority, population under 200,000. There's currently 2 in Arizona. There's us and there's Yuma County. Yuma County crosses into California. If you didn't know that, the Y-SIPTA region, Yuma, has services in Arizona and California under their NPO boundaries. So that makes it challenging for us to pool as well. Most of the rural and small urbans are operated inside of a city or county structure, as it stands right now.
No, thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
No.
Because that definitely explains why it's difficult to find a institution to pull with, because they're just aren't.
I'm hoping these transit associations, though, they have the reach, the national reach, to help set up these conversations. We met with 2 brokers that specifically work in the transit industry. Our broker is Alliant, who does also work specifically in the transit industry. And just that's a very common conversation happening now is about strategies. It's no longer about just renewal. It's about how do I change my policies and my programs.
All right, number 10, 2025 workforce budget.
I'm going to cover this item because Josh Stone is out today. So you will have to bear with me because these are his slides. We may have to defer some questions to when he is here next month, but Rhonda will help me keep notes. We'll make sure we get all your questions answered. So some impacts to the workforce budget. I'll go over details before actually touching on what we're seeking as an increase. Of course, there's the minimum wage change, and then the inflation impact to our overall compensation recruitment efforts. And I want to just touch base real quickly. We brought this forward a couple months ago. You did approve the 60-cent increase across the board to staff, even though it was only the minimum wage changing. But most recently, we noted there's a fast food chain here in town doing recruitment. Their current starting wage is higher than our transit bus operator wage, even with the 60-cent increase. So it isn't just minimum wage that is driving our wage conversations. So for now, we have the 60 cents. We're using it. We're being really creative about recruitment because there are things we offer that fast food does not. We have the state retirement system. We have a robust health benefit. We have lots of programs. We are talking about our job as a career. I don't know if the fast food change can convince people these are career jobs. Maybe they do, but that's where we're focusing our time. But I did want to just say, we so much appreciate the 60 cents. We knew it was going to be a financial impact. We are still bearing the brunt of that impact across the board, right? It affects ASRS, it affects taxes, everything. But without it, we would even be in a worse scenario for recruitment. Why learn to drive a bus when I can flip a burger? So investing in our employees, our total wage increase is $363,000, and that breaks down into partially the 60-cent increase we just talked about. But we have a pay plan. It was approved in 2020. It has a 4.5% anniversary increase for those staff on step tables, and those are our operational related positions. So operators, operations supervisors, operation coordinators, and then a 3% anniversary increase for open range staff. Currently, Mountain Line does not have a pay for performance policy. We have an anniversary or longevity policy. We will be looking again this year at pay for performance, but it's very hard to manage and get everyone on the same board. So we're watching the city very closely on how that's working for you and how the education helped and things along that line. And then we do have budgeted a compensation study. This came up in the employee engagement survey that staff don't feel like they're being paid enough. Obviously, when you drive past one of our newest businesses in town with a huge $1950 sign in a window, it really drives home that we need to look at our wages holistically. Just making sure I covered my notes. A couple other notable changes. We've added a new holiday called Indigenous People Day. This replaces for a lot of agencies Columbus Day. For us, it wasn't a replacement because we didn't observe Columbus Day. So this is a new holiday we are adding. We feel like it's an important holiday to add. We added Juneteenth several years ago. We feel like this is another important holiday to add. The biggest impact to adding this is that we operate service, and so drivers who work that day get double pay. So there is a financial impact to making this a holiday for us who operate regular service on that day. And then we started giving double time as our overtime rate about 6 months ago. I would tell you that it has been a significant game changer in getting people to help cover shifts. A lot more dependability, although we are in reduced service and we've seen an ability to reduce the overtime demand. That double time and a driver knowing they're getting that double time has just made it attractive to volunteer to work on their day off. So we are proposing to make that a permanent policy change and keep it. It is a $158,000 increase over traditional overtime, but I'll remind you, we only use it when we need it. And if we get fully staffed, that's a savings to us as well. So just wanted to point that out.
I have a question.
Of course.
With those overtime like that on special events, how many in the year do you have? Do you now have Indigenous Peoples' Day and I assume Juneteenth, but
So
besides
we
those?
currently have 11 holidays, so that will be our 12th paid holiday.
Okay.
I can run through them if you want. We do Martin Luther King and President's Day, Memorial Day, Labor Day, 4th of July, Indigenous people and Juneteenth. We do Thanksgiving and the day after Thanksgiving. We do Christmas Day, New Year's Day, and we recently added Christmas Eve.
Okay. Great, thank you.
And so people who work on all those holidays are service days for us, except Christmas Day and Thanksgiving Day. But those people who are working, they get double time on those days. Insurance benefits, we do participate in the Northern Arizona Public Employee Benefit Trust along with the city and the county and the community college. Those rates are set by the trust. And so here are the impacts of those. 100% of our staff are employed in what we call employee-only coverage, and roughly 60% are enrolled in family or dependent coverage. And I will just recognize that that is a significant change since pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, a lot of our workforce was made up of retirees that didn't have family members that they were enrolling. And now as we change who we're hiring more people that are younger with families. And so we are seeing an increase in enrollments in our family plans. The medical is the only one with an increase from the trust. It was a 1.5% increase to premiums, and we're really working hard to maintain what we call our employer portion of those dependent policies so that we're absorbing that impact and employees don't see it. Retirement benefits, these are all set by the state of Arizona, and around 90% of our staff are enrolled in state retirement. We do have some part-time positions that are currently not enrolled. We track their hours, and when they cross the threshold, we of course enroll them. We are also working on making sure staff understand that retirement is a benefit and it's not something you have to pay to work here. That's a common theme. Wait a minute, you just took 12% of my pay out of my check. No. I took 12% and I gave you 12%, but you know, that conversation. So in summary, a medical increase of about 44,000, wage increase of 363,000. That doesn't include 158 for the overtime change, which we could save when we're fully staffed. So we're proposing our workforce budget will be a total increase of 407,000. And then I'll just note, not included in the presentation, but in the staff report are all the other things that we offer for retention and attraction, recognition programs, bonus programs, days off. We pay vacation time, we have sick time, we have volunteer time. We now have hazardous or evacuation leave pay. So we really try and give our employees a lot of benefits to use when they need it. And with that, that's everything that I have on the proposed workforce. And again, if you have questions, I'll do my best to answer. Otherwise, I will have to ask Josh to catch up with you at the next meeting.
Are there any questions at this time on this item? All right, a lot to digest. Maybe
It is a
have some
lot.
questions for next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, number 11, recruitment and retention, Cody Weaver.
Hello, thank you, members of the board. Morning. I will go through the items of recruitment and retention that currently myself, Sheldon Yazzie, Sam Short, that we all participate within human resources. We know it's a many of you are seeing, it's a ever revolving door with recruitment right now. And Sheldon and I are part of the Society for Human Resource Management. We are certified professionals, assurance CPs, and every week him and I get numbers of just seeing the unemployment rates, and it's outstanding. And as Heather's mentioning, you know, we're going and knocking on doors, going to job fairs, going, no, work with us, work with us. But then our new establishment is saying, no, we can offer you this. So I will be going through many of the items that we are currently using. After going through them, you will probably notice that we are recruitment and retention heavy, and I do, as through my career of HR, I do like to just, my main focus is our team members at all times. So for the recruitment, I will be going through, these are on the first, you will see these in the job sites. We do use Indeed. We use Craigslist as well. We hire Flagstaff, ASTAC, CCTA, American Planning Association as well. We also participate with school job fairs. We are currently participating with NAU, Coconino County College, Phoenix Truck Driving School, Coconino High School, and we just started to go to the high school for their work program and career fair recruitment. Sheldon just went there to do a presentation of hiring mechanics, because we know that probably in the next couple of years, we're going to see the EV start getting really popular, and not a lot of education is behind the EV just yet. So we want to get our hands behind the mechanics so we can start bringing them in-house, so we can start participating in that training. Bus advertisement, many that see the signage on the bus about hiring drivers. We also participate in Navajo Nation, all chapter houses. This is the local government within 1 hour driving radius. We say that just when we post jobs for them. We say if you're within 1 hour driving radius, you most certainly can continue working for us. As I also do not live in Flagstaff, I have to commute. So this is just to give an idea for many of our employees who do not live in Flagstaff, just an idea of their radius and if they can make it on time or not. We also go through DES, Department of Economic Security. We go through Goodwill Job Recruitment Center, Flagstaff Shelter Services, Working Alternatives, and Coconino Adult Probation, Second Chance, Nonviolent Offenders. We've had a couple employees who have come from the Second Chance, and they've actually turned out to be great employees and promoted as well. These are some of the retentions that we have. I won't harp on too much of our health insurance because that's well where we are part of the trust. But we do have the PTO and sellback programs here. We also have the healthcare package, medical, dental, vision, as Heather was explaining. ASRS, Aflac Insurance, Nationwide Investment, or the deferred. These are some of the internal company programs that we have. The Mountain Line Referral Bonus Program, you can earn up to $800, and we have this open for all of our frontline hourly paid team members. We also provide housing assistance loan. We know that's been a big one. We currently ran some numbers, and we do have about 7 people are using our housing assistance program, 4 have been repaid, and 3 are still working on it. So once somebody is paid, this is part of me and Sheldon's kind of getting them through the door. Idea is that we know Flagstaff is expensive, we know. But if you come work with us, we can help you out. This is the housing loan assistance program. And we get a lot of NAU students who get very interested in it because they don't want to keep living in a dorm or with mom and dad, right? Volunteer hours. This 60-cent raise that was all approved. Training programs, we provide our great trainers, Jed and Danny. They provide continuous training in the training department to keep refreshing programs of our drivers. Relief supervisor program. This is kudos card. This is a internal kudos card. We give out kudos cards that are worth $5. You can save them up and then come see me or Sheldon for gift cards that we buy locally in town. We try to hit as many local establishments in town like Biff's Bagels, any other local establishment, and we get their gift cards so we can give to our employees for doing such a great job and still providing the help to our local vendors. Public service loan forgiveness. This is by the Biden and Harris administration. We wanted to keep that on. We're not sure if it's going to continue after this election year, but we do have many of our team members who have applied for this program that either I or Sam sign off on so they can start preparing for their loan forgiveness. We also have the Employee Assistance Program, or as many of us know, EAP, through Jorgensen and Brooks through the trust. This is a continuum of our retention, as Heather mentioned. The stay on bonus is $1,500 over 3 installments at 6 months, 12 months, and 18 months. We also provide accident-free bonus, annual increases, anniversary recognition program, quarterly bonuses, Mountain Line passes. And we finally also offer education and staff training. Mountain Line will help team members enroll in courses or seminars and help with professional growth and contribute to division and goals. These are all the items that we currently use within our HR department for any retention and continued recruitment strategies. I will pause for any questions, suggestions, comments.
Can you go back 3 slides?
Yes, ma'am. This one
No, maybe, oh,
is a recruitment.
back one. Okay, can you explain a little bit more detail on the housing assistance program?
Yes, so the Housing Assistance Loans Program, we provide as Mountain Line, they get $5,000 upfront. But over time, which is through Josh's payroll, they are provided a certain amount to pay that back over time while still working with Mountain Line. If they plan to leave Mountain Line before it is ended up, we do help them offer any sell of their PTO, so it doesn't hurt them so much, or of any other offer plan that is done by payroll.
So if they come to work for Mountain Line and this housing assistance could be used for a move into a rental
Yes,
or a house
apartment,
purchase,
house, I know.
$5,000
Mhm.
come to work for us and we'll help you move into a place.
Yes, when I first started last year, I remember Sam and Sheldon made that offer to me and my partner when we first moved. We also offered it to many of our staff who are moving up here and moving into apartments, housing, or many of our people who have second chances or anything. They have their I want to say their peers come and help them out to move, and then therefore they're able to get that assistance and finally be in a home and feel secure. And where did they get that? Here with us at Mountain Line.
Great, thank you.
Follow-up question on that.
Yeah.
What's the time commitment for the 5,000? Like if they were to come work for Mountain Line, how long are you expecting them to work to pay that off?
Depends on their position, how much they're making. They have that discussion with Sheldon Yazzie and then Josh. So I believe it depends on what they discuss and how much is used, because we don't want to hurt them too bad on each paycheck.
Yeah,
So we don't want that to defer them from saying, oh, well, now I can't afford it, right?
yeah.
So we do work with them over time to figure out a payment plan solution.
Okay, and then it's only if they leave before that payment plan that then you're starting to look at PTO and other ways to
Correct.
get it back, so that way you're not.
Correct, yes.
All right, thank you.
I just want to clarify, it's up to 5,000, so they don't have to take the whole 5,000.
Okay.
They can use it for security, they can use it first, last month, and we will make the payment directly to the apartment complex on their behalf. And that's one of the things, we want to ensure it goes to housing and not to bills in general, right? So, and then as Cody said, we really work with them. So the repayment amount is really, what do you think you can afford? And we start there, right? And we build from there. What we didn't want to do is offer a loan program that put them immediately in financial straits by repaying us back.
Yeah.
Things we are looking at is, like, we have the quarterly bonus, we have the accident bonuses, allowing them to opt for that to go towards their repay back instead of cash in their pocket when they want to do that. Just what are those other things that they could pay it back faster if they wanted to? And I'm pleased to report we have had no one fail to repay or leave. And we've had 2 leave while in repayment status, and they repaid it as part of their departure.
Yes.
So really has been a successful program, and I know at least 2 of those were employees that were leaving Flagstaff, worked for us, talking about leaving our employment in Flagstaff because of cost of living, and that housing program allowed them to stay employed.
Wow.
So we feel really good about the program. We think it's the nice middle ground of helping people with housing, but not using tax dollars to pay for someone's housing. It is a lot.
And I guess the other thing that it helps in is that $5,000, if you were to pay them, they would have to pay taxes on that, whereas by you paying directly, you're taking care of that, you're allowing them to put that money down without having to pay the
Yes.
personal income tax for it.
Correct.
All right, and any other questions?
That's a good one.
All right, well, in that case, thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation. All right, next item, 12, maintenance facility project update, and Dunno.
Hello, good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board, and Nuno, Capital Development Manager. I'm going to provide you an update on the maintenance project. This is just seeking feedback. There's no decision or action today. Next slide. Some of you are aware, and some of you are more recent on the board. Mountain Line did a CASPAR master plan a couple of years ago that the board approved in November of 22. That outlined the goal of the master plan was to maximize operational and maintenance use at this CASPAR facility. With the downtown connection center coming online, we had opened up opportunities for space at this location. And so the master plan, with that 20-year plan, I had two phases. The first phase is a new maintenance facility, which was our highest need. And the second phase is a bus storage facility. So in this exhibit, you can see the new maintenance facility is going to essentially be located in our existing shop zero. That's pointed out here in the yellow rectangle. The future phase 2 is in the adjacent brown box, which is the administrative facility that we're all sitting in, would be demoed and built out at that location. Oh, there's the next slide. So you can see the second phase, which is not funded, would build out for bus storage. And a little bit of where we're at in the process with the maintenance facility. We are working with the city. We've developed a concept plan, and our next step is, as you can see, the massing of the facility. On the left-hand side is really the maintenance side, those first 3 garage doors that you're seeing. That's the area we're focused. It will have a mezzanine, kind of a high ceiling, and an area for some storage up in the one part, and we'll have a rooftop parking on top. So we'd have a ramp that would go up and allow for rooftop parking. And then the second phase would then connect and build out for storage. It would have some office space for some of the operational positions that require office and training. So as I said, we're working with our design team, HDR, and we recently did award to the construction manager at risk, Kinney Construction was awarded. So we're starting to work with them on with the workshops. Really developing the concept package, which went through city. The next step is to go to the site plan phase in mid-March to kind of go through that standard process. As part of that, we will have a conditional use permit, kind of a zoning requirement that we'll have a hearing, go through that standard process with the city to build the phase 1. And as part of that, we'll be doing our lot modification. We've identified that we do need some tree resources that are on the adjacent vacant land parcel. So we will want to make a lot modification to include those, and that'll working out what the process is with the city to kind of incorporate that into the conditional use permit process. But really kind of following, knock on wood, a fairly standard construction project delivery, where we'll get a site plan approval and then keep moving into design with the design team and Kinney Construction. And really, as far as overall schedule, we're looking at maybe some site work with utilities, maybe in 2024, this year, late year. It's more likely to be next year. Ideally, we would demo the shop zero after we have moved into the downtown connection center, which is tracking for May of 25. So we have, there's just a lot going on. So it would kind of flow pretty well if it could work like that. And I should mention that this is a fully funded project. It's approximately a $20 million construction award, 16 million federal, about 4 million local dollars, and then about a $2 million design grant as well. So that's kind of the total project budget that we're working on is about 22 million. Any question?
I have a question. So, as part of Metro Plan, I'm the representative of RTAC, and I've been doing a lot of legislative lobbying, and this maintenance facility has been part of that. And it's nice to see the presentation, actually understand what I'm lobbying for. Can you explain a little bit about the RTAC legislation and what that would mean for this project. And maybe.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to connect dots because I'm out there, lobbying, but I'd like to know exactly what I'm talking about.
So, and I have followed you in many of those meetings, you leave and I come in, right? So, same thing. So Rural Transportation Advocacy Council put together this statewide funding for rural infrastructure projects. Really born out of an idea that the bipartisan infrastructure law brought 30% plus money to infrastructure projects. And we really felt like we needed to appeal to the state to help ensure all those federal funds come to and stay in Arizona, because if they don't come here with appropriate local match, they go to somewhere else that does have the match. And so that's really where it all started from. Metro Plan, as our MPO and participant in our TAC, did a call for projects, saying, do you have an infrastructure project that could benefit from this match? And so we currently have the full 20% budgeted for that project. What we have done is appeal to RTAC and Metro Plan for 10% to basically split the local match between state of Arizona and city of Flagstaff for that grant, because it was an opportunity. If I can save 2 million by gaining 2 million from the state through this RTAC bill, that's 2 million I have towards future operating or future capital projects, is the theory and the thought process. But we assured FTA when we applied for the $16 million grant for that project that we had the local match to carry it out, and we remain committed to that. It's more of an opportunity to save local money if we're successful in obtaining those state funds.
No, I appreciate that. Just clarifying that for everybody, really, to understand why we're pushing that. It's not that we need the money, we have the money. It's more of leveraging the money we have, because 2 million we could use for other projects.
Thank you.
And I would add another important point kind of related to the prior agenda item around workforce retention. A major goal of this project is to improve our working conditions for fleet staff. They have a very old shop, very constrained, very tight, working out. The bus sits outside, and you've probably heard this. I mean, it's challenging. It's not climate controlled for that, for those times. And so this would really be a modern 21st century garage to be doing, extensive repairs and, a much better lighting, just a better working condition. So,
I just presented a question in my mind, with the 21st century modern facility, is there an opportunity in that build and design to mitigate some of the risks presented with the electric buses, which, like to isolate maybe fires and stuff, because we're building a new facility, and if we had different mechanisms now put in there, so is that part of the plan, or does that make sense?
So as much as we can, we are. So we're asking for this building to be resilient. We want this to be a long-term facility. The real challenge is there are not a lot of fire mitigation tools available. You can't put water on an electrical fire, just as an example, right? So traditional mitigation efforts don't apply. The industry as a whole is working on things like fire curtains that you pull between vehicles to create barriers. They're looking at a foam or powder system and its deployment. How does it get deployed, et cetera? So we will be ensuring that we can make those advancements and changes in the facility, either pre-construction or post-construction. It'll be built to be ready for those things as they come out. They just don't exist yet. But we are consciously aware of, and Jeremiah and his team have been working on a plan of how do we make sure as little damage is done as possible if we did in fact have a fire incident.
And then different focus, and I know this is late in the game, but just curiosity, was there any discussion when the design and the concept was first being developed for workforce housing?
You want me to talk about that here? So the property that we're really just redoing this facility. So workforce housing is not part of that solution. You may recall there was a discussion with the board about another parcel that we own north of here, which is actually zoned for housing. Initially, we looked at it, could we rezone it and use it for transit purposes, but it's not, the connectivity between the parcels is not smooth. And part of that is this set aside for Linda Vista to push all the way through at some point in the future, if it ever does that. So it created a disconnect between that parcel and our property here. What we will be bringing in the next couple of months is a firm decision on lot modification. So that's one thing we need to do is, what do the lot lines need to look like so that we can make then a firm decision about that parcel up there. While we've been in those conversations, we have been approached through the Alliance Group, which is a meeting of public agencies here in town. The city, the county, NAU, CCC, all of us participate in. They have set up a housing group, a workforce housing group. And there has been conversations about, well, how do we all maybe use that property for housing, bringing in a partnership? So I will say loudly, as often as you'd like, I do not want to be a landlord, right? That's not my forte, and I don't think that it's good for transit. It really is our focus, right? But if we could find the right private partnership, I think we are open to it. We are very attuned to, we need workforce housing. I don't think we can lead the effort, but if our land can contribute and assist to the effort, we are happy to do that. So this property won't include any workforce housing, but that doesn't mean we aren't continuing to explore how we use that other parcel.
Good.
Will I continue?
All right, yes, please do. Sorry. Time to write my notes.
Thank you. So this is also an update with the Downtown Connection Center. Again, just seeking feedback, no specific action at this time. And great progress on phase 1 of the building. In fact, I didn't get a chance to update these photos. It's even further along than when I inserted, than when I put these photos in. We did get a little bit of, delays with snow, which is to be expected in the last, couple of weeks, but they did get their building permit, which was kind of a big milestone that they just got a couple of weeks ago, which was huge, which means now they can really go vertical, which really the next big step that you'll be seeing is the cross-laminated timber, the CLT, which is a unique structure, which essentially comes ready to just erect or set on site instead of sort of that traditional steel or a stick-built type of system. So it's going to be pretty interesting to watch going up. And the Lovin contracting team is working closely with the city building officials to really get geared up for that, unique inspection process. So, but you can see a lot of progress with the stem walls, the ADA access is kind of what you're looking at here in this picture. Here's some at the manufacturing site up in Oregon area. This cross-laminated timber is being manufactured and getting ready for shipment. Again, just seeing kind of, there's elevator shafts have been done. There's a lot of utility work. So a lot of just, underground types of things and really bringing in fill to bring the finished floor. There's a picture here of a team, including Heather, that was on site before the snows, obviously. And this was in January, where you're standing at the finished floor of the first level and you can see their height and the Milton Bridge behind them. I mean, you're sitting up pretty high above Milton Drive. And then, relatively speaking, it's gonna really be a good scaled building relative to the standard across the street and then the bridge behind us. So that was exciting. So great progress really on the building phase. As I said, they're working to get that's really the next big step. And maybe I can work with Heather to identify a time for a field visit if there was potential for that in April or May. As far as it's still overall tracking for occupancy in 2025. So that's really what we're going to start planning, and behind the scenes, we're going to start planning our own other steps internally to get geared up because there's a lot of moving parts with moving part of an organization to a new building. So I guess I'll pause. Any questions on phase 1? So phase 2, if some of you may not recall, but we did receive our conditional use permit for really the whole project. That was, the purpose of the project was a building and an ops hub, of which we've split it into phases in coordination with the Rio du Flag. So our latest kind of coordination with the city and the Rio project is we've identified what our interim ops will look like. So this photo, it's just intended to show kind of a snapshot.
this little triangular area, you're kind of seeing where the buses are, and that sweeping, that's the culvert of the Rio. That's how we'll be sort of wedged in between the future building and the Rio during construction. So our next big internal push is to get ready and be ready for that Rio. So when they want to put a shovel in the ground and close that area off, our team, our operations are ready, and we've got a plan. And so and a lot of that requires that we have to go through a site plan. So we're doing that with the city to develop this as an interim plan. You have to lower some APS lines along Phoenix Avenue to get through some other pieces of the city, but we're working hard on those pieces. And our goal is really to be ready by next, May, June, in case, and that's not to say the Rio is going to be ready at that time, but we wanted to be ready. So really that's our big push of these two for the ops portion. Any questions on this part? And then really for the big picture, we still are working, which is the 13 bus bays you're seeing that goes all the way over, and ultimately we also have a civic space. We are working on our phase 2 ops hub, so we call it the ultimate, working with the electrical package. We've got to get secured, work with APS to secure that wattage off the network. So just getting through some technical pieces there. The civic space, we're looking at construction beyond 2028, after the Rio de Flag. That's our current estimate of when that's done, and after the city can complete the floodplain mapping. So that's kind of where that sits. Any questions on?
So on the previous map, it showed the Rio de Flag kind of curving, and this curve, is that go away with the reconstruction and the Rio project?
Yes, because that's buried, and then we come in and we build that over the Rio.
Got it.
Yes. Which there's obviously extensive coordination because we want to, we're going to have electrification here, so we have to figure out how all that's going to fit over a structure that has constraints, technical constraints around it. So yeah, there's a lot of coordination involved, so.
Any other questions? All right, well, it's exciting to see the progress.
Yep.
Thank you for the presentation.
We look forward to a field trip.
Yes. Can't wait. All right, next up, progress reports, number 14, Flagstaff Unified School District update, Jackie Learners.
So we're actually gonna skip all the way down to current events. So as a reminder, anything in a progress report is meant as information for you. You can ask us to agendize any of those items anytime you wish. We will be presenting, just as an example, an update on FUSD in the coming months. This was just kind of a check-in report, but if you want something off progress reports put on an agenda, please let us know, and we're happy to make that happen. But I'm gonna jump straight to current events.
So just, so I'm clear, we're not gonna go back up, we're just up.
Yep. I'm gonna, they even gave me titles, so I can leave them on all the time and I still take them off. All right, so this is a picture of Bernice and Cody at a job fair. Surprise, Cody. So this is at NAU, and we believe we have 2 candidates potentially lined up to start in the summer as a result of this job fair. So just evidence of the outreach that we do, and I'm really thrilled to see Bernice in the photo. She joined out in the field with Cody. Bernice has been here 25, going on 25 years, I believe. So I wanted to share with you this statistic. In November, we cut service. Hard decision, impacts so many people. And you'll see in the ridership numbers, it's impacting ridership. We've seen a 40% drop in accidents because we were able to reduce overtime. So the proof is in the pudding, to use a phrase my mother would say, that really over time attaches itself to our accidents and incidents. So I'm really pleased to report that we see such a steep decline, and it just furthers for us the need to really evaluate how much we're asking of our staff in regards to overtime. And it is a national conversation on transit work hours, because I've started to associate transit work hours and the fatigue that comes with it, not just to vehicular accidents, interactions with public, attention to details, all the stuff. Snow, did you know it snowed?
What?
So snow the week of February 5th presented us with several operational challenges. If you've watched any news channel in the Phoenix area, you've actually seen this as a video. The white vehicle in front of the bus is actually towing the bus away from the curb. So what happens in our community is these buses are heavy, and when they go to move away from bus stops, they will slide into that gully and get entrenched in the snow or the berm, and then they can't move. And so we have a vehicle that goes out and retrieves them. Really pleased to say we were able to start on service and provide service until scheduled end times. We did one day pull frequency because we need to get people off the road and get them rested. Some routes had more trouble than others with remaining on time, but our team worked together to serve the community and get people both to and from their destinations. And we did have several messages from the public thanking our team for providing safe transit options throughout the storm. We actually have several posted in the building as well, and one of them was attached to this video that a member of the public posted on Facebook that was then picked up by news channels. So, Jackie and I attended the Jackie and I attended the Southwest Transit Association Annual Conference in February. I actually serve on their board of directors and just recently accepted the position as secretary. Conversations at this conference were really centered on succession planning, the impacts of fare pre-service, an appropriately timed conversation in the coming months, vehicle procurement, which has reached a peak of discussion nationally, and a shortage of manufacturers for those vehicles, transit driver assault concerns, and a need for a carve out for the CDL program and transit operators. SWATA, Southwestern Transit Association, is 9 states. Arizona is the most western state. Louisiana is the most eastern state, and it goes as far north as Kansas, I believe. Colorado is a member, but Utah isn't, just to give you an idea. So really a great working group, and it's transit systems of all sizes. To the conversation we had earlier, Valley Metro is a member, and so is City of Cottonwood. So really a wide gamut of different systems. This is a screen capture of a trip rider evaluation tool that we as leadership are using. So our leadership team is going to start getting out on the buses. It will be part of our job requirements for all staff to ride the bus so many times per month. And the goal is really for us to see what the customers see. And this tool will help us track that so that we can then make informed decisions about the customer experience. This is not to look at drivers and figure out what they do well or do wrong. This is about us learning from the customers. This tool was built by our employee Ty Holiday in our planning division, and we're very excited to see it in use, and we'll be providing a report in the coming weeks. The CDL testing and training facility is nearing completion, and I'm going to show you a video that I think is totally cool. But we have to stop sharing, and so everyone online, just bear with us for a moment. There we go. This video was put together by Kenny Construction Services, who is our CMO on this project.
Oh. Maybe I shared it twice, I think. Hey, what happened there? There it is. Okay. Let's get rid of that.
Can you see it on screen, John?
Thanks.
So showing you pictures of a big concrete pad is not very exciting. But I thought that was a pretty cool video that shows the magnitude of 3 lanes of concrete and the work that really went into putting that in place. So as I mentioned, the construction is really near completion, if not completed. We will not be opening it for several months yet. We have an APS piece that still needs to be completed. So hoping to finish, they hope to finish that by early April. And so we have started thinking about what is a ribbon cutting going to look like on that site. And so be on the lookout for a save the date for that. We're maybe going to be able to let you all drive a bus on that CO course if you like. But not letting you know. So just pretty excited to get it over. Yeah. I have driven a bus on private property in a rodeo. It is a very interesting experience. It does give you a real clue on some of the challenges of moving those big vehicles. Can you click on that? Yep, thanks. So a couple other brief updates. Refresher training. I've been telling you for a year, we're going to get all of our staff refreshed, and I'm very happy to report that in March, we will have 30 drivers all receive 20 dedicated hours and be fully refreshed. And the other 10 probably received that training in the last year. And so we will call all of our staff ready to go. And we're very excited and I'm very thankful for Dave Doss and Kim Lisinski, who really made this happen along with Sam Short and our trainers. 38 staff are now 100% accident free. And to put that in perspective for you, for the time period measured, we had 38,000 hours of service and we drove 478,000 miles during that same time frame. And those people are 100% accident free. So big, significant effort there. I'm very pleased to share that. We had 11 team members pass their behind the wheel, 4 team members pass their behind the wheel evaluations, which is the unobserved follow alongs that we do via video. And they have 100% on those evaluations. So we evaluate efficiency, customer service, safety, driving habits, etc. And I really wanted to show you, I put their years of service because you can see it's not about how long you've done the job, it's about how intentionally you perform it. 2 other anniversaries to share. Josh Reynolds in our transit operator position is celebrating his 7th anniversary, and Marvin Chi is celebrating 11 years with Mountain Line. I did forget to share one thing. I recently was fortunate enough to attend a state House hearing. It was the Judiciary Committee last week. There has been a bill dropped that will add transit workers as a protected class under aggravated assaults to change the state law. It actually adds transit workers, rail workers, and airport workers. And we learned about it on Monday, and I was fortunate enough to be in the Valley and be able to go and to testify. It passed the first committee hearing. It's in another committee hearing today, fingers crossed. And then it jumps over to the Senate side. So Arizona Transit Association is really building or leading an effort to build support for that bill. This is not the first time it has been introduced, although it's been several years. So we believe that it really recognizes our staff. There were several individuals that spoke about how game-changing it was for medical care professionals to be able to hang a sign that said, if you hit me, it's a felony, and how it just de-escalates some behaviors quickly. I think the most significant thing is it tells our team that they're valued. They deserve to be able to come to work and be protected. So if you're interested in participating, I'll be happy to share with you the House bill and the letter that we have submitted to the different committees and members of the state. But I wanted to share that with you today. And with that, that's everything I have for current events.
All right, thank you. Our next board meeting is Wednesday, March 27th at 10 a.m. Let's see, is there anything else we need to discuss or?
I don't have anything else.
All right, well, in that case, it's great seeing everybody. Thank you for your hard work today and all the presentations and